Hello, and welcome to a mini edition of Tag1 Team Talks, the vlog and podcast from Tag1 Consulting. I'm Lynette Meyers, the principal technical writer at Tag1, and today we are looking back at 20 years of Drupal. A lot of our Tag1 team members have been around for a very long time, some of them from the very beginning. And today, instead of being the interviewer, I get to be joined by Michael Meyers, the managing director at Tag1. Gosh, when was it? Were you at DrupalCon Brussels? Because that would have been the first one I was at.
Yeah, I've been to every DrupalCon except for the first one. Actually, no, that's true. I missed Australia and I missed India.
Oh wow, India! Wow, that's been a long time.
Yeah, the two I would have loved to have gone to more than any others, Australia and India. I missed. Such great locations. But yeah, we've known each other for a really long time, Lynette.
It always cracks me up when people are like, but Drupal's it can't be that old. I'm like, my kid is 13. My older kid is 13. That's how long I've been in the community. She's 13. So yeah, so we have talk about some of the stuff that you have done since you've asked everybody else.
Sure. So oh gosh, I've been in the Drupal community for almost 17 years now. Oh my God. We were such young kids when we started this. My background is in startups, and I'd been part of some startup companies. Been fortunate to be part of very successful startup companies, and thought, wow, this is amazing. I want to do this. And I had been searching for an idea, and camera phones were coming from Japan to the US. And I was thinking, wow, what a cool technology. Maybe I could do a business around this, and hit on the idea of citizen journalism, the idea that, breaking news happens from the scene of the event, and if you had a camera phone, we could disintermediate CNN. We could create the next global media company if we could empower people to report on the news live from the scene of events. And so I went to folks, that had run the startups that I worked at that had been very successful. And I said, hey, would you invest in me to get this startup off the ground? And they said, absolutely not. We'd love to, but you don't have any users, you don't have a website. Like, are you crazy? Like, why would we give you money? And everybody I talked to, even the people I knew, said that. And so I went and I said, how do I build a website quickly? And yeah.
No, is it wrong that my immediate thought was, do you need a website? And I'm like having flashbacks to like Jeff singing the Drupal song at like Barcelona or something. And
the Drupal song, I forgot about. Wow. Oh my God. Yeah.
In case you didn't feel old already.
I gotta take that up later.
I should put that, if we propose it, we should put that in the links. I should see if I can find a video for that.
Wow. So the startup was called NowPublic.com, and my co-founder, this guy Michael Tippett, he was based out of Vancouver. We had worked together at Afternic in New York City. He moved back to Vancouver, and I went out there and we were brainstorming. Okay, how do we get this off the ground quickly? And Boris Mann lived in Vancouver. And Boris started Bright, which was the first ever Drupal consulting company, and he was ridiculously generous. We sat down and we had coffee downtown Vancouver, and he was like, "Hey man, you got to hear about this thing Drupal and check it out." And I was sold. I was looking at a lot of other frameworks at the time. I knew I didn't want to like write this from scratch.
Even then.
Yeah, even 17 years ago, we knew we didn't want to be writing things from scratch. And Boris sold me on Drupal, and that night I picked it up and started tinkering. And the modular nature, we glued together a prototype. Even was able to incorporate some camera phone stuff by extending a module. And I went back to all of these investors I talked about, and they were flabbergasted. So remember, this was 17 years ago. We launched a site with a tremendous amount of functionality in a really short period of time, and they said, "Here's $1.7 million." Like this. And so, that was, I credit Drupal with, a lot of the success of our company from day one in helping us get it off the ground, to all the amazing people that we got to work with. And just fortunate from a timing standpoint. My first ever hire was Chicks, Carol Nagesi, who made, unprecedented, contributions to Drupal in the community. And, just from there, the number of people that we got the opportunity to work with that today are, the superstars of Drupal and who made Drupal what it is. We were just in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. And it all came together nicely. I was fortunate to build NowPublic into a successful startup and sold it to a major media company. Their largest website was examiner.com, and we relaunched examiner.com on Drupal post-acquisition and grew it into a top 50 website. So Examiner was the first top 100 website to run Drupal. And through NowPublic and Examiner, we made massive contributions to Drupal, introduced memory caching systems and all sorts of aspects to help scale Drupal to what we needed it to achieve. We were really, one of the first commercial companies to build on Drupal. And that's one of the things I love about the early days of Drupal. We were able to get together at, Brussels, at Barcelona, at these early DrupalCons with small groups of people, have thoughtful, impactful decisions that led to major changes. We need a testing harness, and so, as DrupalCon got bigger and bigger and Drupal became more and more commercial, DrupalCons became more about, a little bit more of a business event and less of a technology event. And so then they created core days and other things where, core conferences where developers got together and, the community started to fracture isn't the right word, but sort of divide and conquer, perhaps.
Differentiate into their areas of interest. I don't want to say silos either, because a lot of those people, a lot of folks cross over from, today I'm going to go do this thing, but tomorrow I'm going to go do that thing. And they're, you have some of those very hardcore, I'm going to go to developer stuff because that's what I do. But there's a lot of folks who cross over between, people like the technical writers, people who are documentation folks. They're like, okay, I wonder what the developers are doing, but I also need to know how to meet the needs of the businesses. So yeah, I know that's a lot of.
Yeah. And then by the time DrupalCon San Francisco came around, I would wave to people in the hall, Angie, oh, it's so good to see you. That was the only time I saw Angie. The entire conference was things changed dramatically from the early days, and that's the growth of a platform. It's wonderful that Drupal's become what it is, but I think those are some of the things that you struggle with, having been part of it for such a period of time. Dealing with those growth pains.
Yeah, that's true. I remember a lot of those. My last DrupalCon was Denver in 2012. It had to have been 2012 because Ruben was just over a year old at Denver. And I remember a lot of that though. Just like, oh yeah, hey, how's it going? I'll see you later, maybe. You get lucky and be able to manage to hook up with folks for dinner or something like that. But yeah, there's just so many people and so much going on.
Denver is when I joined Acquia, or rightly thereafter. So Examiner was based in Denver, and I helped with, a lot of folks on my team helped organize DrupalCon Denver. But as part of launching Examiner on Drupal, we were the first Drupal 7 site to launch, or one of the first anyway. We launched the top 100 website on Drupal 6 months before the release of the platform. We helped create, over 33% of the platform. It was this amazing engine. We had Catch in Japan, who's now the D8, or D9 framework manager and release manager. Our team would work all day. Catch would work overnight, incorporate all the changes, as sort of like the committer. So we had this really wonderful engine with so many people, Mo Schweitzman on the migration with Mike Ryan. It's funny, so through all of these things, I worked with the Tag1 team. Tag1 helped me get NowPublic up and running in scale. They helped me get Examiner architected design up and running in scale, and all the people that we work with today, yourself included, I got to know over this time frame. And that's why I'm at Tag1, is because it was such an amazing group of people that I got to work with that all came together around this one group. But come DrupalCon Denver, I had just left Examiner maybe like a year before and was taking some time off, and Dries and I had met in New York City just to have coffee and catch up, and we were talking about the tragedy of the commons, the idea that in order for Drupal and open source in general to continue to grow and excel at at the pace we needed to, we need to get all of these companies that are using Drupal to participate in Drupal, whether that's financially or from a resource standpoint. Most people just download and use Drupal, and they don't really get engaged with the community. But
Right.
If we could change that, it would revolutionize Drupal. It would give us, the resources to do things that would otherwise never be possible. And so we were chatting a lot about it, and he said, why don't you come to Acquia and help us solve this? How do we get, how do we grow Drupal by an order of magnitude? How do we get these companies engaged and involved? And I said, that's crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's possible. And he said, I don't know if it's possible either. And I was like, great, let's do it.
Low bar then, right?
No, I think, one, it was an opportunity to work with Dries, who I admire. Two, it was a really gnarly problem. I like the fact that there wasn't a solution. I like the fact that there may, that we had to come up with a solution, and that there may not be one. I also didn't like those things, but I like, but I like them more. But I like them more. And it was a Sisyphean task for sure. And we made some inroads, and I'm really proud of that. And then spent 5 years at Acquia working for Dries and did their developer relations, developer marketing, etc. So that's sort of.
I've heard you talk. You're an evangelist with not so much of the BS that some of them have.
Just a small side of BS.
You gotta have some, right?
Do you see the halo back here, the glowing? I'll shift back into the light.
Go into the light. Wait, wrong movie.
It's my aura. It's not the light. My aura.
Okay, well then what is the favorite thing that you've ever done or worked on?
Wow.
Or dealt with? Like, what is your favorite? What is the favorite thing that you've ever, like, anything, feature or whatever? I mean, like, for me, like, my favorite thing is a lot of just the people that I've worked with. I mean, I've been lucky. I've got that guy, what's his face back there,
My husband, that dude.
My husband, he's only the guy that wrote views and stuff,
You call it, like, my husband, that guy that wrote views.
Yeah. What's his face?
He gave me kids. That's all that matters.
No, I used to get that because he was Merlin of Chaos on
Yes.
IRC, right? And so I had Esmeralda of Chaos, which was my username on IRC, and people would be like, "What does Merlin think about that?" I'm like, he doesn't care. Why would he care? I don't know. We've been together, like, at that, we've been together since 1999. I think he's okay with it. At whatever point, it was cool.
It is peace. My IRC name is Michael E. Meyers. Very creative. So
that's your name everywhere.
This is kind of weird, and I think I was just the catalyst for this. I wasn't, I think I'm most proud of the automated QA testing harness. And this may be a weird thing to say, but I'm proud of how it came about. I'm trying to remember which DrupalCon it was. I can picture us Jeff from Lullabot and Matt and Kieran. Like, I got a bunch of of the leading agency partners together, and I was like, man, like Drupal doesn't have any tests. This is crazy, and
It's time, people.
yeah. And I was like, typical me. I was like, we need to make this happen. Like, this has to be a thing, like a fiat. Like, we're gonna say, there must be tests in core. And they're all like, I don't think that's gonna fly. I don't think you can just say that.
There really, really, really should be tests in core. How about that?
I was like, okay, that's fair. But I was like, if we all committed right here and now that our resources were going to contribute tests to core, then it would happen. And they were super cool about it. They're like, okay, that's great. We'll make a huge concerted effort to contribute tests, and that really got the ball rolling. All of our resources started submitting tests. Then it went from like an idea to like the community doing it. Then we started coming up with ways to do the what's going to run these tests and come up with the standards around that. And today, the harness, every time you make a commit to Drupal core, you need to have a test, and it's run through a large battery of automated tests on a lot of different platforms and configurations. The QA system for just Drupal core does something like 10 concurrent years of testing in a year to keep up with the number of commits. So in a single year, over 10 years of tests are run.
That's pretty wild.
And it was, it's the power of setting something in motion and helping, to make these things happen. I learned so much from that experience, which is why I'm so proud of it. It's what helped me do so many other things later on, like getting Drupal 7 out the door, which is a much bigger feat, but that never would have happened had that, lessons learned about, introducing a critical feature into the community in a way that it becomes a standard. And that led to the enterprise adoption of Drupal in many ways, not in and of itself, but without that, enterprises wouldn't have adopted Drupal if there wasn't a testing harness there. So that was one of the, the pillars of, the growth and success of 7. And so that end-to-end lesson taught me so much.
I mean, it's, companies for whatever reason want tests, don't like their stuff to crash.
They've got enough crashing.
Crazy talk. That's just what? Wow. So that if that was in Drupal 7, that would have, I can't even count that high. That would have been like before 2010.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if some of it happened in 6, but it came to like 7 is when testing was standard. I think 6 is when we introduced it. 7 is when we formalized it.
So yeah, that would have been like Boston or DC maybe.
Even earlier.
Earlier.
We were in Europe. I remember that.
Oh, well.
And I want to.
Yeah. Brussels, Barcelona. I'm like, those are the ones I remember because that's like I didn't get to go to many of the European ones after that.
Maybe it was Amsterdam, and that's why I don't remember.
You said it, not me. Just saying.
It's just old age. That's why I don't remember. Not kids anymore.
Oh, that is for sure. All right. So for you, what has been the best thing about being part of Drupal? And you can't say testing because you already used that.
Without a doubt, the best part has been testing over and over. Like, it's all about the testing. I'm crazy, but not that crazy. It's the people, and I think a lot of people say this, but it's the people. Like Drupal in many ways has made me who I am. I have friends all over the world. I feel connected to the world in a way that I never did before Drupal. I remember being at DrupalCon in Chicago, and the the Asian tsunami hit Japan, and
Right.
Nathaniel Catchpool, who I think at that time we weren't even working together anymore. I had just gone upstairs to my room to do something, and I had seen him down on the couch in the lobby, and I like turned around, like maybe I went upstairs to like go to the bathroom or something, and like I just like turned right around and ran back downstairs. It was like, holy, like, Catch, like, have you heard the news? 5 years before that, I've been like, yeah, a tsunami in Asia, like.
I what was it, San Francisco or Denver? I can't remember the volcano in Iceland.
Mhm.
Remember that?
Yeah,
Because all like Adrian, I think, was good, and a bunch of like the Europeans ended up not being able to make it because they couldn't fly over, and all of
right.
us going, crap, that's this talk and this talk, and okay, well, shuffle.
Um,
Is everyone okay? Nobody actually had to fly. Okay, cool. Everybody's okay. Great.
yeah, these events that otherwise would have just been a headline in the newspaper that I was disconnected from and didn't really understand now have weight and significance as if it happened to me. And that has given me such, amazing perspective on the planet, and, and perspective on myself, and how, like, context. And so, from that to just these wonderful people like Adrian. I love Adrian, and doing these interviews and catching up with people. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we've traveled to 20 something countries together just through Drupal. We've
Yeah.
um, hung out all over the world and had, laughs, and, shared, like, what we used to do is we used to rent big houses and just get huge groups of people together and, live it up. And, it was so much fun to, I look forward to, you know, DrupalCon in, Barcelona, not just for DrupalCon, not just because Barcelona is a great city, but because we, had a house, and, we had, a big cookout, and, all these people that we were spending time with.
Were you there? Did you come to the place we stayed at in Paris? I'm trying to remember because we stayed with because that was Greg Knadison's team when he had GVS,
Going
and
venture.
so he rented an apartment. Yeah, he rented they rented a place, and we shared, Earl and I, and we had Charlotte at the time. She was like a year and a half, and yeah, and we had the place, the amazing place. There was like 10 of us in this 3-story apartment with a hot tub on the roof. And so we like sat, and there was a wine shop at the corner. And so like we would sit up on the roof with our feet in the hot tub and talk about here we got like 2 of the guys over here solving like this gnarly views problem, and 2 of us over here talking, sports, and we're all drinking wine, and then it's like, okay, we're out. It's your turn to go to the store. Walk down the 6 flights of stairs.
Wow.
I mean, that was awesome because we had just like a ton of us, and we had Earl cook dinner for like, I don't know, 15 or 20 people. We had a bunch of people, and it was awesome just having that big group of otherwise people we would not have gotten to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I've met so many wonderful, amazing people that I've learned so much from, and like the quality of the people in the community is amazing. Like, just wonderful, good people that are, caring and helpful and, supportive.
Angie, the very helpful lioness.
Yeah, I mean, from day one, and I try and, I try and pay this back as much as possible. During the early days of NowPublic, when we just had, friends and family money, and, we were really, tooth and nailing it to get to that point of funding. People, like, I'm trying to think who it was. A well-known Drupaler logged into our servers and was like, hey, I can solve that for you. Let me just, and we're like, sure, log into our production servers and fix this. Like,
I trust you.
and they did, and they like totally, pulled us out of a hole and saved our ass. Like, no, don't worry about it. I'm just happy to help. And, like, we had chicks and all these people on our team. Like, we knew who this person was. It wasn't like we were just opening our doors to strangers. And the same thing later on. I'm trying to remember what DrupalCon it was, but we were having some server architecture stuff, and David Strauss, who's now one of the founders of Pantheon, at the time was, chapter 3. No, he was 4Kitchens, David Strauss.
Yes, that sounds right.
Um, he was like, "Oh, dude, I'll come over." Like we came in like a day early or something, and like we had everyone in the room hacking. He's like, "I'll come over and help you," and I'm like, "For a day?" Like really, like, and he just, I mean, and like, what he can do in a day, would take other people like 2 weeks. And like, he literally spent a very long day with us doing all sorts of insane shit. And I was like, like, how can I thank you? He's like, "Oh, dude, don't worry about it. This was so much fun." And I was like, uh, I sent him a slew of fancy liquor to thank him, but so many people went out of their way at so many times over the course of my career with Drupal, on a professional level as well as on a personal level, and so
Yeah.
hands down, it's the people, it's unquestionably the people that make Drupal what it is, and you know made it.
For sure. No, it reminded me of one of the. I think it might have been the con with the volcano, where Adrian was going to come, Adrian Russo, and like Adrian was one of the first people I met. I sat and chatted PlayStation Portable games with Adrian because I was kind of very peripherally, but Earl was very busy with like, I'm doing all these new views things because this was like 5 dot something. And of course, like I was like 8 weeks pregnant. I'm laying there on one of the couches, exhausted and chatting with her. Anyway, so like Adrian was my buddy. Like it was great to like love chatting with him. It was cool. And then he couldn't make it to the one of the later cons, and so somebody printed out a picture of Adrian's head. Got a cardboard stand-up and pasted the picture of Adrian's head, and then Adrian got to come, and everybody was taking pictures with the stand-up of Adrian because everybody's like, we miss him and we're sad he's not here.
As Adrian is quite the character.
Yes.
Definitely one of my all-time favorites.
Yes.
Total tour de force. He wrote Ager 48 hours, like the initial Ager.
Yeah.
I love
and everybody was like, okay.
I miss that guy.
Yeah. I still see him occasionally on social media and stuff. But yeah, I mean, because at the time he was living in South Africa, and now he's in, I want to say in London, somewhere in London.
Wow, I haven't seen him.
Yeah,
he was in New York.
Yeah,
and we got together for a little bit, but that 4 years ago, 6 years. I thought it, seemed like a few years ago, but who knows?
I don't know. This last year has seemed like a dozen years, so it's really hard to keep track. Like what year is it again? I don't remember. So yeah. So is there anyone you'd particularly like to thank as we wrap up? I mean, I think you've like thanked a lot of people and brought up a lot of names that were like helpful and stuff over the years already.
I think that there's, 2 people I'd like to thank explicitly. I mean, obviously there's way too many people that I would like to thank. I'll leave it with Dries. I don't think he gets enough credit for everything that he's done. I don't think Drupal could be or would be what it is without his, style and approach to things. He is amazing to work for as a boss. Like he's the kind of person who says, "I have a problem, good luck and God bless." Like he doesn't tell you what to do or how to do things. He really lets you run with things. So he was a pleasure to work for. He's a brilliant and thoughtful guy. He's unflappable. He has these amazing characteristics that, without his temperament, and I don't think that Drupal would have been successful had someone else started it, even if it was technically superior. You know, the community, the people growing an open source project, you know, a lot of that isn't just the technology. And I think, you know, Dries with a deft hand has done that. And then the other thing is, you know, the effort, the energy, the physical and the mental toll that this takes on someone. Like, you know, Dries has been running Acquia for over a decade. He's been running Drupal for over 20 years. Like, you know, after 8 years of my startup, I was mentally and physically exhausted and took, you know, over a year off and just like, you know, chilled out, you know, like I don't, you know, his stamina, you know, and, you know, uh, and the fact that he can maintain his even-keeled nature, you know, 20 years in under all this stress and pressure as Drupal's become this commercial farce and balancing these things. Like, you know, I can just go on and on and on. Like, Dries is such a wonderful, caring person. Um, you know, I think one of the things that I love, I heard him say once, someone asked him, like, what are you most proudest about with respect to Drupal? I just never forgot this. He said, the impact it's had on people's lives. You know, the fact that, you know, I've watched people start companies and grow from a person to 100 people. I've watched someone start as a consultant making a little bit of money and, you know, transform their life and their family and have a better life together. I've seen how Drupal has helped organizations meet their missions and goals. And like, it was just such an, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I made a fortune. You know, like,
I mean,
he
that's cool and all.
yeah, that, you know, I don't think he cares about that, you know, and I really don't, you know, I really think, I think, you know, it came so quickly and so fluidly, and I've known him for so long. I have no doubt that that was an honest and true answer, and I'm confident he feels that way today. And I am grateful to have benefited from, you know, my Drupal journey, and you know, it's done just that for me. And so I am forever grateful to him and to everybody in the community for helping me along the way. But um, you know, huge thank you to him in particular.
I would have to agree that Dries is probably one of the most unflappable people I've ever seen. Really. He just kind of like, really?
I was like, I'm
So
sure
how do you think we
my
should
job
solve
is
that?
trying to throw him.
It's like, it's kind of like no matter what you see him doing, he's like, all right, that's clearly a problem and we can solve it. Let's, you know, let's find some smart people and figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it. Like, he's like a monk. Um, really.
But it's like he's got the same kind of like, if you just come up and you're chatting with like, hey, I haven't seen you in like, you know, since the last time I was out for Build Week. How's it going?
Yeah.
To, there's this huge bug that needs to get fixed, and he's got the same just kind of even keeled approach to like everything, which is.
And he's the same old tree. He's like, you know, all this success, it never went to his head. He's not, you know, like, again, any other person, you know, I don't think would have dealt with the success and the fame, like all these amazing characteristics that he has as a person. Like, he's just a pleasure.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add to your 20 years of Drupal memories? Aside from, oh wow, I feel a lot older today now.
No, these interviews have been so much fun. You know, I hope that people do listen to this and get a sense of what it's like to be part of an open source project and how it can, you know, transform your career in life, not to be cliche, because it's true. But if no one ever sees this, it was so worthwhile because I've had so much fun over the last week, you know, catching up with people and remembering, you know, you know, what happened in Paris, and oh my gosh, you know, like, oh, we can't talk about that on this. You know,
cut that during edits.
so many, you know, so many great people, and you know, we're busy, and our there's so much going on in our lives. This was a great opportunity to look back and catch up with people that I wish I had more time to spend time with and hang out. So I've loved every minute of these conversations. It's been the best part of my day for the last week, and I'm looking forward to next week. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day, Lynette, to do this with me and talk about it, because it's a pleasure.
It's a good way to start off my Friday. All right. Well, then I will wrap it up by saying thank you for joining us for another Tag1 Team Talk. Please, if you want to see more of these talks, they'll be posted at tag1.com/tag1 Team Talks with a 1, not the word, the number. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will see you again.
Awesome. That was great. Thank you.